How do mastermind groups work? That is what I'll be talking about in this video. In this video, I'm going to touch on all the important things you need to know about how a mastermind group works. First, I'm going to talk about why you might want to consider joining a mastermind group and why they're helpful. Then I'm going to talk about what they are. And then finally, I'm going to get into the nuts and bolts of how they work. The entire point of a mastermind group is that there is more wisdom in the collective than there is in any one individual. The concept of a mastermind originally came from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. He basically interviewed the richest, most powerful men on the planet and found out that they had this thing in common, which is that they surrounded themselves with other rich and powerful men, and they shared and collaborated and gave each other best practices. So that's the concept of a mastermind, that if you gather people together who are generous and eager to collaborate, then you will get great ideas, you'll solve problems, and you'll come up with bigger visions and possibilities than you could have done on your own. So what you do in a mastermind is you gather a group of incredible people. These people all have a similar intention, which is to give to each other generously. Now imagine when you have a group of people where every single person in the group has the intention of giving generously, you have a group of people that are all supporting each other, inspiring each other, uplifting each other, and then each person in that group gets to receive a whole lot of value from the group. Now, before I dive into some of the nuts and bolts of how masterminds work, I do want to share with you a little bit about why I know what I'm talking about, who I am, and how I came to know this information. So not only have I participated in a number of masterminds over the years, maybe, 5 or 6 serious ones, and then some smaller, lighter, one-time ones, I've also been leading a mastermind group for 8 years, the same group. Now, of course, members sometimes come and go, but essentially that one group has been in running for 8 years. That's a pretty long time to have a mastermind. And of course, there are some out there that have been around for 20, even 30 years. The goal of a mastermind, in my opinion, is to gather the most amazing people you can, and also to create a culture of generosity and collaboration. Now, before I dive into how they work, I do want to invite you to take a moment and subscribe to my channel, like my video, and I'd love to hear about your experiences with mastermind groups below. The most important thing that makes or breaks a mastermind group is who is at the table. Some things you'll want to consider, or some things to think about if you're joining or even starting a mastermind group, is who are these people and what do they bring to the party? A lot of times people want to think about who would get the most out of something like this. And what I want to invite you to do is to shift that focus to who would bring the most to a situation like this. If you bring people together that are very successful, that have a lot of experience, a lot of gifts to give, and you get them focused in on an intention of generously sharing, you're going to have a magical experience. So who's in the mastermind is important. If you're thinking about joining a mastermind, I think it's ultra important, just fundamental for you to know who's going to be there. And that means either coming in and testing it out one time or getting some way to meet the people before you make a commitment to join. And the reason that's important is that it is a commitment to join. It's not a thing to take lightly. It's not something that you're like, well, let me try it out, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to leave in a month or so. And in fact, that's one of the biggest things if you're going to lead and launch a mastermind is making sure that the people that are coming in are committed. And I require for my mastermind group a year commitment minimum. And what I found is that when people come and go, if they're not super engaged or if they don't show up fully or if they're not, present at every single one or most of them at least, then it erodes the culture of the mastermind. So this is not a model, a business model or an endeavor, I think, to take lightly. It's one to bring together people who are really, really committed. Another thing to consider is, are these individuals in a similar industry? Do they have a similar focus? Now, a mastermind group can be cross industries, right? You can have people from totally different walks of life and business gathering to share best practices. And what I've found is that it helps when there's a similar focus. So a mastermind of speakers, a mastermind of coaches. What I have is a mastermind of mostly speaker coaches. And that works really well because they're able to really share tools and resources that work. I'm also part of a mastermind that's a broader focus, and that's helpful too, sometimes to get broader perspective. So you'll have to just think about what makes the most sense for you and maybe even test out a few different ways of doing it. The second thing that's super important is, what are the values of this culture? What do these people share in common values-wise? So you'll want to have people, obviously, that value generosity and contribution and giving, people who are going to be generous at the table. I cannot stress that enough. I have had the experience of someone coming into my mastermind who was there to just take. And it really erodes trust, and it just creates a bad taste. Even one bad apple can spoil the bunch with this model. So it's really, really important that you make sure that everyone who comes is aligned, and that you set guidelines for behavior, guidelines for how we show up here. So that means guidelines for presence, for, absence, how often do you have to be present before you lose your spot, things like that. The third thing you'll want to look at is the format of the mastermind. The format is how often you meet, how long you meet for, how many people are in the mastermind, how long each turn is. So this can vary widely. I've been a part of a mastermind group that met quarterly for 2 days per quarter with about 20 to 25 people. So each person went and had a nice long 30, 45-minute mastermind session where all eyes were on them. They presented some sort of challenge or problem that they wanted support with, and everybody gave feedback. So that's one type of model. Now, the challenge with that model is it's not easy sometimes for successful people to take 2 days every 3 months to invest in something like this. So there has to be a high level of commitment. Another model that I've used and seen is meeting about every month virtually for about an hour and a half, 2 hours or so, and then everybody takes a turn. Again, you'll want to look at how many people you have and what makes the most sense. I run a mastermind group where we gather 2 or 3 times a year, and then we also gather virtually every 6 to 8 weeks. And each person takes a turn of about 20 to 25 minutes. And that seems to work pretty well. Another thing that's important is who's in charge of the mastermind. Maybe it's going to be you, and I will share a little bit about launching a mastermind group, or maybe it's someone else. So whoever that person is, they really need to be in charge and hold the standards of the container. Again, one bad apple can spoil the bunch, and you need somebody that's willing to have those difficult conversations with people if they aren't showing up, or if they're not showing up generously, or if they're disruptive in some way. So I think it's really helpful to have a leader person rather than having a democracy or a committee-based format where everybody's trying to be the boss. So whether that's elected, a person who's elected, selected, or someone who, like it might be that you decide to lead a mastermind group and get paid for it, then that person is you. And I think that's the best kind of mastermind. I'm a big believer in starting your own mastermind so that you can create the thing that you need and want the most. Which brings me to how to launch a mastermind. And so what I would do to launch a mastermind is to first and foremost check out my playlist about how to launch a mastermind group. And then secondly, really dive into what's your vision for it? Why are you doing it? Really understand the purpose of it. Is it to make money? Because it absolutely can be. My mastermind has been an extremely profitable venture for me. Or is it just to get ideas and be someone who gets to receive as part of the mastermind? You want to give and receive your gifts? Or is it something like a contribution that you want to make to your industry, to your association, or something like that? Just really checking into why you want to lead a mastermind group in order to define more about what that might look like. Because why you want to lead it is going to change how it looks for you. I hope that this video was helpful for you. I would love to know about your mastermind experience. And if you want to learn more about how to launch a paid mastermind group, and you're someone who's already somewhat successful as a coach or a consultant, I would love to connect. You can find out more about working with me at superstaractivator.com/go. Let's connect.